Hey, what's going on? Today we're talking to Mark Friedman with Friedo Nation Productions, his company for podcasting. We talked about his favorite social media networks and his love affair for Kesha.
This is the Marketing Natives, providing actionable ways to grow, improve, and succeed in your business. And now, your hosts, Christian and Aaron.
Awesome. All right, let's get this started. All right, Mark, thank you for being on our show. Now, let's just talk a little bit about your company. Just tell us about Friedo Nation Productions.
Well, I produce podcasts mainly, a lot of audio. I dabble in video, nowhere near the video that you guys do, though. And I just believe that anyone who has a website, anyone who does any kind of content, really could use a podcast.
Absolutely. And actually, now that we're jumping into the podcast, we have some really good podcast questions, but I think that we should break the ice or go back a little bit. So you guys know Mark owns a podcast production company, but we didn't tell Mark what questions we were going to ask. We're just going to have a conversation. But there's a couple of things I know about Mark, and I want to get it recorded while we're candid here.
Okay.
So Mark is a twin, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So whenever you've explained it to me anyway, you guys are complete like polar opposites as far as like, I mean, you look the same, right? You're identical twins, but personality wise, you're a little bit different. Can you expand on that?
There are certain things that we are really different at. He's a lot more outgoing than I am. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I'm really kind of shy, which is surprising to a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of call BS on that when they.
I do.
You've been on the radio for so long, and
but I am. It takes a lot. I'm out of my comfort zone right now, as a matter of fact. But he's a lot more outgoing than I am. Little things like when we play poker. I realized this within the last year. He is the type of dude who just bluffs all the time, and I don't bet unless I have the winning hand. Right. So I'm not going to do that. And the real interesting thing to me on a very deep, like scientific level, is we are identical twins. We grew up in the same house, same parents, obviously. And we basically, the way I see it, is we had the same exact experiences until we got to be like 9 or 10 years old, where you start kind of going off your separate ways, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he has a completely different outlook on our childhood than I do. And to the point where his wife has asked, are y'all sure you grew up in the same house? Because we will have the different memories of the same exact event. And one of the examples I use is my parents were paycheck to paycheck. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination. And when we went to Ranger games, we would sit in the cheap seats because that's what we could afford. And I remember thinking back, well, it's so cool that we got to go to the Ranger game. And
heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, evidently, he was sitting there thinking, why can't we sit in the good seats? And so I look back on it with very, very appreciative and a lot of gratitude that, hey, I got to go to those Ranger games. And evidently, he looks at it like he missed out because he wasn't sitting behind home plate.
Dang.
So stuff like that.
He's local here too, right?
Yeah, he's in McKinney, Frisco.
Does he own a podcast production company too?
No, he doesn't. That's another thing too. Is we're nowhere near as close as people think twins should be, and we don't hate each other or anything like that. But to the point where,
what's his email so I can share this podcast with him?
Well, that's another story I'll tell you in a second. So Sandra from the Allen Fairview Chamber of Commerce, she's the membership director.
Right.
We took a picture at a ribbon cutting, and one of Sandra's friends outside the chamber said, hey, is that Joel Friedman's brother you're sitting next to in the picture? And she said, yes, I guess it was. And later on, probably like 6 or 7 weeks later, we're all at another event, and someone asked me what my brother did for a living. And I said, well, he runs a computer help desk for a mortgage company. And she said, no, he doesn't. He runs the IT department for Citibank.
Oh, my God.
So she knew more about what he did than I did.
Wow.
I guess it doesn't really come up, We're usually fighting about other stuff. Okay, so we can probably dive back into that, but I have one more question that I know, because this is kind of an entrepreneurial style podcast, but this isn't your first technical business. I think you told me you used to own like a convenience store.
Yes.
And I'm just curious what got you into owning, hey, I'm going to buy a convenience store, and was it a dream or like?
No, not at all. Basically, my first job out of college was Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And what they do at Enterprise, it's actually genius. It's the way I would run a company. They only hire college grads, which I don't know. Did y'all ever interview with Enterprise at all?
I actually
But we have a good friend that works at Enterprise. So.
Yeah, but she actually, our good friend, got us to the point where like I was going to make the decision. Like they offered me the job, and I just said that I wasn't going to take it, and I went somewhere else. So I'd went all the way through their process, which is a really good process of like how they interview and who you have to talk to. I think I did like 3 or 4 interviews.
Yeah. Yeah, and what they do is everyone's a management trainee, and they start you off at an awfully low salary. My first salary coming out of college, now this was 91, but it was 92, and still an awful salary, was $15,400 a year.
Ooh.
Dang.
Okay, and so you don't start getting paid there until you get your first promotion.
Wow.
And so I was working there, making that, 15
And it's a lot of
grand year.
hours too, right?
It's a ton of hours. But you know what? It's great training for the real world too, though, because Enterprise leases to people and they rent to people who have their cars in the shop or they've been involved in accidents and stuff. So no one's coming in because they're happy. Every customer that comes in is coming in off of a bad situation.
Right.
And then you have to manage the inventory of cars and stuff like that. So you have to deal with a lot of people in a lot of different situations. But I worked my way through high school and college at a restaurant in Richardson. The owner of the restaurant in Richardson called me about right after I got my first promotion at Enterprise. And he told me he was going through a divorce and he had to sell his portion of the restaurant to his ex-wife in the divorce settlement. And so he wanted to know if I wanted to go into business with him. And I said, I've got less than $1,000 in the bank right now. I can't go into business with you. And he explained to me that he found a convenience store and a restaurant in Rowlett over by Lake Ray Hubbard that was kind of dilapidated. He said, we can buy it for $35,000.
Wow.
And he said, we'll borrow the money and we'll pay it back. So you don't have to have equity. You'll earn your equity. We'll buy it, we'll run it, we'll remodel it, and we'll sell it. So that's how I got into the convenience store business.
So it was a restaurant too, then?
Yes.
Very cool. Like,
Yes.
Is it the restaurant like a quick trip kind of thing or like an actual...
No, it was actually full service. I mean, it was like we called it the Country Cafe.
Yeah.
So it was like a diner, but,
A little Cracker Barrel inside of a quick trip.
Yeah, exactly. And gas station.
How long were you running that for?
Okay, well, that's interesting. We ran it for about 2 years, and we actually made money running it. Part of the reason we made money running it was kind of sad because in Rowlett at the time, there were no grocery stores, but a lot of convenience stores. But we were the only American-owned one. And so, I mean, we didn't outwardly take advantage of it, but...
People knew.
Yeah, people knew.
It's
yeah.
People talk.
But we ended up selling it to a guy named Tommy Kwan, who was Vanilla Ice's manager. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting.
So, I don't know if I missed that part or not, but you from 92 and then how long?
About 2 years.
Oh, okay, 2 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'll just let you take over at this point. Those are
Are
my
you
two.
editing all this out, by the way, or are you going to keep it?
Do what?
Are you going to edit all this out?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. No. We're very raw. If you listen to our you listen to our podcast. Yeah, we're very raw.
I mean,
so
we might take out a few things if it doesn't make sense or whatever.
Yeah, depending on how it flows. But more than likely we're just this regular conversation.
Cool.
Unless there was something about the convenience store that you wanted to say else, and
We're good. You can ask me about when I was a small town bookie or anything like that.
That's off the air. Well, you guys will have to message Mark about that.
Cool.
So I guess my next question would be, Friedo Nation Productions. How and why did you get started doing podcasts?
Okay. Well, come from the radio side. I was at the Ticket and ESPN for about 24 years. And I thought what I was going to do, because the radio industry, as you guys know, all the media industry, they're having a heck of a time trying to figure out how to deal with the digital world.
Right.
And radio, newsprint, they all have the same issues. And I thought that I would just take my radio show and make it a podcast. But I had a 6-month non-compete with the radio station. And I left on very good terms, didn't burn any bridges. And the radio station probably wouldn't have done anything about that non-compete. But I didn't want to take any chances. And I also want to get involved in the community. So I figured, for the next 6 months, I can get involved in the community and then I'll take my radio show and make it a podcast. And during that 6 months, I joined the chamber.
Woo, shout out.
Were you already living in Allen?
I've lived in Allen since 2004. Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's
and
crazy.
Don't have any kids. So even though I wanted to get involved in the community, the fact that I didn't even coach soccer
Right.
You know, I didn't have that entry into the community. And then my radio schedule, I had a lot of travel and a lot of weird hours kept me from being able to be involved. So I figured that 6 months would really be a way for me to be able to get involved.
Kickstart. Now you have the bug.
Yeah.
Because you're part of the school board as well, right?
Well, I was on a committee for the school board
Okay.
for the failed bond package.
Yeah.
I'm still upset about.
Yeah. I was going to say, so failed bond. Here in Allen, just to give some background, we were voting on a bunch of stuff for or at least the bond was for the school district, rather. And they voted against that, and they voted against the term limit, or they voted for term
limits,
yeah.
yes. But yeah, I've gotten really involved in the community.
Yeah. And you're also a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, too, for
Yes.
the Allen Fairview. And ironically, we do the marketing for that, so now we're on the other side of this. So if Mark dislikes us, he's going to fire us.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Thank you. Have you always wanted to sort of start your own business, or was that always the end goal for you?
You know, not necessarily, but I've always been entrepreneurial type minded. I didn't really know until I got into this how natural it was for me because, for example, I thought that I was really going to miss radio. Sports radio is great. I mean, I was very fortunate to be able to do what I did. Feel like I haven't worked since I was 23 years old because, you know, I'm talking sports.
Right.
Right.
I'm traveling with the Cowboys. I'm going to Super Bowls. I'm going to the World Series and stuff like that. And I really thought that I was going to miss it. And not only do I not miss it, but I don't think I would go back. As a matter of fact, a radio station in Waco, I don't know if I told you about this, Aaron, but about 2-3 months ago, a radio station in Waco called me. I knew the program director and one of the hosts there, and asked if I'd be interested in possibly doing a 10 to noon show there, but being able to do it from my office here at Yeager.
Oh, really?
And I asked, can I record it and send it to you guys? And he said, well, no, it'd have to be live. And I said, I don't think I'm interested in doing anything live.
Going to miss ribbon cuttings.
Well, you know what? It's just the thought, and you guys are probably the same way. You guys are working your butts off, but you get to make your own schedule, even though...
Right, we're all recording this on a Saturday, just so everybody knows.
Exactly, but it's your time. You feel like you're more control. And I didn't want to be in a position where I had to be at my office every day at 7 o'clock, even though I'm pretty much at my office every day at 6:30, but it's my choice.
Right.
So it's kind of a psychological thing, but I really love being able to be in control.
Yeah. Well, maybe he'll come back to you and just be like, okay, yeah, send it to me.
Well, you know what? That's the future.
Yeah, just pre-recording and sending it over.
ESPN's already doing that. They're actually airing podcasts on their radio stations on the weekend.
Smart.
Yeah, it really is, and eventually they'll figure it out. On the Ticket yesterday, if you're here local in the Metroplex, their afternoon show recorded an interview with Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. But the way they did it was, and they actually called it a podcast, even though it's not a podcast, but they did it in podcast formatics.
Okay.
And it just a whole lot. It's more efficient to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's better for the end user, I guess, too, like the person actually interviewing. Interesting. That sounds like an awesome interview, too. So.
Yeah. Oh, it was. You did a great job.
Now, are you currently doing... I mean, you're doing the Allen in Action, where you're basically the host of the show. Is there any future within like the sports area?
I'm doing a couple. My voice is on a couple sports podcasts. One called The Clubhouse, which is a sports podcast that
I've listened to that one before.
Providing content for another digital media company.
Gotcha.
And then I produce the Doomsday Podcast, which is a Cowboys podcast. You'll hear me on that every once in a while, but usually I just am behind the scenes. Yeah.
Awesome. And you also do not a lot, but I feel like you do quite a few nonprofit podcasts too.
Yeah, I do a lot of faith-based.
Okay.
And I've started a podcast feed called Friedo Nation Community, which is for nonprofits so that they can come in and promote what they want to promote. And I don't charge them for that.
So, I mean, to that end, do you think that podcasting really is for every business owner? Like some people say that, I don't have anybody, I don't have anything to talk about, but, do you really feel like podcasts are for every business owner?
Oh, I think every business owner should be involved in a podcast one way or the other, whether it's them doing their own podcast or advertising on someone else's. For example, I've got a couple of realtors that do podcasts, and I'm not a sales guy. I don't go out and sell the advertising and all.
Right.
But to me, I'm an idea guy.
Yeah.
But to me, if you're a home inspector, if you're a home insurance person, insurance agent, there's lots of things related to real estate, a mortgage person, that if you don't want to do your own podcast, you can find someone else's podcast and promote yourself on that.
Right, just sponsor that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So as far as podcasting, what's been the biggest challenge for you? Like, you started the business, you thought you were going to go one way, and you did that for, you went another way for 6 months, and then were like, oh, I don't want to go and do the other stuff, or this is, way more fun and also probably more profitable too. What's been the biggest challenge? Because you've been in business now like 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest challenge with starting the business?
The first biggest challenge was myself, because coming from radio, I was very cocky, and I looked at podcasts as kind of like, that's the minor leagues. Those are the guys that can get radio jobs, or the kids in their mom's basements.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's us. So
yeah,
no problem.
But you know what? I was completely wrong about that. And it took me a couple months to realize how wrong I was, that podcasts can be incredibly powerful and very effective and very efficient way to promote yourself and promote your businesses. So that was the first challenge. Second challenge, and it's still kind of an ongoing, but it's getting easier and easier, is educating others on what podcasts are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they've become so much more mainstream just in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, especially with how easy it is in your cars to listen to podcasts now.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I actually turned the radio on.
See, and that's a challenge for radio. That's, the first thing for radio, I know we're not talking about radio here, but I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that I was in talk radio, and talk radio is a little bit protected because it's all original content. Mm-hmm. But music, I can't tell you the last time I listened to music on a terrestrial radio station. Mm-hmm. If I'm a music listener, I'm either going to listen to satellite or I'm going to listen to Spotify or my own playlist.
Yeah.
So radio is really challenged like that. And even in talk radio, it's getting to be more challenged because you're not just competing with the other local talk radio stations. You're competing with podcasts. You're competing with, streaming radio. So
speaking of playlists and stuff, I feel like that's a good. I don't know why Christian's laughing, but I mean, unless he knows Mark's playlist. But Mark, like, if somebody pulled out your playlist, what's the top 3 most listened to songs and artists? What kind of music do you get down to? You know
what? I've been told I have the playlist of a 14-year-old girl. I would say probably, just educated guess. I guess we can look it up. But most played would be Britney Spears.
Nice. Like new stuff, old stuff? Where are you feeling with the Britneys?
Probably the old stuff.
Okay. Like Hit Me Baby One More Time kind of stuff? Yeah.
There you go. A little toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Miley Cyrus was a big player. I'm not sure she would still rank if you actually looked at the stats on my playlist. Kesha. I was telling you guys before we started that I actually went to a Kesha concert by myself.
Nice. Yeah. What's your favorite song by Kesha?
TikTok.
Okay. I mean,
he showed us a new song that we've never heard of. It's called Dinosaur, and I got to tell you, it's great.
Yeah.
It's
we
really
love
good.
Dinosaurs, so it's we're biased, but
I'm also like a lot of Jerry Reed. Do you know who Jerry Reed is?
No clue.
No clue.
Do you know Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eastbound and Down, the theme to Jerry Reed, to Smokey and the Bandit is Jerry Reed.
Oh, okay.
And he also sings a song called Patches, which is about a kid whose father was a farmer, and the farmer died, and the kid was 13 years old, had to take over the farm. It's a very sad song.
Gosh.
Yeah,
I'm going to avoid that one.
Okay.
Gosh. All right. So the manliest of manly talks about football and, everything like the gridiron. And then, after you get done talking about somebody smashing somebody's face in and getting a concussion, you go over there and listen to, Hit Me Baby One More Time. This is a good.
It's a good balance. Man.
Yeah, it is a good
Baby.
balance. You got to have both sides. It's, otherwise it's the grind. So speaking of the growth with your business, I mean, you have quite a few podcast feeds going out. You work with nonprofits. Do you do anything to advertise, or just like good production and people just word of mouth?
It's pretty much word of mouth. Now, I had an advantage coming from the radio side because a lot of people knew me, which was actually very interesting in the chamber or any of these networking groups I go to. It's like half the people know me from radio, and the other half are like, how the hell is that podcast guy making any money? So it's either, oh my gosh, I listened to you on the radio, or who the hell are you?
Right.
But so that did give me a big advantage. I often do wonder if I could survive that first year without the radio experience and without the radio recognition.
Well, at least in the community now, like I said, you're super involved in the community. So at least, within a 15-mile radius of where we're at, or at least the Dallas Metroplex, somebody's always just going to be like, hey, you should do a podcast. Who's the podcast guy? And the first thing that people say is, Mark or Friedo. Really, that's probably... I feel like whenever people introduce you, we have a weekly networking group called Tuesday Morning Live for the Chamber. And I feel like depending on who the card caller is, they put in this business card and they pull it out and they just read the name on the card. Or if they know who it is, they'll say Mark with Friedo Nation Productions, or they'll go Friedo and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to call you Friedo? I don't know. Mark. And so it's just like it's synonymous with your real name.
Which is always odd for me, the people, hey, is it okay if I call you Friedo?
Right.
Yeah, you can use my nickname. That's fine.
Yeah, that's. I think that happened with Melissa from Top Golf or whatever. Shout out to Top Golf. I love Top Golf.
Yeah, big shout out to Top Golf. Just real quick.
Yeah,
I coach some Special Olympics golf.
Oh, cool.
And thanks to Melissa and Top Golf, they're letting us use their bays to practice.
That's awesome.
Which is really awesome because now instead of being stuck out on a driving range watching those kids practice golf, I can watch TV at least.
In the shade.
Nice. Can Christian join you?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. He was practicing in the office a little bit, and Mark was just making sure that he was not golfing.
I wasn't. I don't think I've ever golfed, actually.
Really? Okay.
I mean, Top Golf for sure.
Yeah.
But besides that.
Nice. All right. So we need a Top Golf outing. Cool.
Okay, so we're big on social media. Besides podcasting, the podcasting world, do you have a favorite social media network?
Twitter.
Twitter
is...
Why?
Okay, Twitter is really interesting to me because when I worked at ESPN did a ton of research. You can imagine it's a Disney company. Ton of research. A lot of... they had to go to a lot of seminars, had to go to a lot of corporate meetings. And they always had a spin. They always had an angle in any meeting, any teamwork exercise, team building exercise they did. And it was a really good experience. You go up to Bristol, and people make fun of Bristol, Connecticut because it's a small town. There's nothing to do there. I loved going up to Bristol and seeing ESPN and going through the meetings because it was legitimate training. I mean, they were very professional. So one of the more interesting things I ever experienced in one of those corporate meeting settings, which have y'all ever been in those? Or you guys have always pretty much been in business?
I've been in a couple of corporate meetings. I used to work at Interstate Batteries, so we went to, and that was, I mean, it's a huge company, so yeah, I've been in it. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It can be very monotonous, very boring. But at ESPN, they always had a mission in every meeting that you had. And so kind of the fun part for me was, you sitting there for like an hour and a half and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the mission? At the end, how are they going to tie this in a bow? Well, we're in there with a bunch of producers and program directors. And the person facilitating the meeting asked, okay, just hypothetically, all you producers in here, if you were limited and you could only go to one website for your news, where would you go? And so the whole purpose of that question was that, I mean, they had some of the top producers, radio producers from the nation in there. And what this lady wanted to do was she wanted Christian to say, I'd go to SI.com. She wanted Aaron to say, I'd go to Deadspin, which no one in ESPN would ever go to Deadspin, but go to Deadspin. And she wanted to compile a huge list of links.
Was this auditory or was this written down?
It was auditory. We were going through the room. But she was writing it down on the whiteboard. And every one of the producers said, oh, it's easy, Twitter.
Really?
Because it compiles everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if I, like last night, I fell asleep at 8 o'clock and I was like, okay, who's going to win this game? Go to Twitter.
Yeah.
So, now that's on the sports producing side. On the just my personal side, I've definitely gotten into the trap of Facebook wormhole videos, watching
Nice.
Well, like where you watch one video and then just keep scrolling and there's more
That's
videos
good.
and more
That
videos.
makes us more money. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually a big Twitter user as well. And I think the main reason is just like what you said, it compiles everything. And I think it's like also a huge, if you want to know what's trending right now, just go to Twitter. I mean, you'll find out exactly what's going on and, everywhere. Very, very easily.
I was going to say, and it's quick too. Like if something happens, like, crap, the internet's down. Where do we go to Twitter?
Hey,
Twitter. Is your internet down? Is your internet down?
Yeah.
So kind of a segue to that a little bit anyway, is working. So if you could never work again, so you obviously worked in radio, doing podcasting now, own your own business. I mean, like you said, you haven't worked since you were 23. But if you could never work again, would you, and why?
Oh, no, I wouldn't.
Would never?
I would absolutely work. Now, what I might do, and I may do this anyway, is invest in an RV.
Nice.
And
we would love to go. Just let us know.
And take my show. And there are people doing this, so this isn't a completely original idea. Even though I would have thought about it myself, even if
obviously way before them too.
Yeah, exactly. But take the show on the road and
Yeah.
just get an RV and just live in the RV and just travel.
All right, so bring us for let's do like a month, but we'll bring video. We'll run our business from the road too. We'll kind of do it like game day.
There you go.
We'll run around on the side, put some, we can put magnets because I don't want to mess up your RV, but we'll just put some magnets. We'll go to major cities and then, yeah. I don't know how we're going to run with that yet, but I like that idea.
It's very possible for all of us to do that.
Yeah.
With what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys are a little bit more fancy than I am, but.
No, I mean, we just need our MacBooks.
Yeah. And
Literally.
good internet connection.
Good internet.
Yeah.
So if we have good internet and MacBooks.
Internet's getting so good everywhere. You're fine.
Yeah.
We can do that.
And we're even, like, we can get 5G and be able to
teleport ourselves. 5G.
Well, that may be 2021, but, not 2019.
Cool. And by the way, that's one of the things that is making podcasts a whole lot more mainstream also, is just the level of technology and the more abundant unlimited plans for your phones and stuff like that. I heard, and the Carson's Crusaders.
Yeah.
This is great. The whole, how your parents would say, in my day I walked to school uphill both ways, and they'd all complain.
Yep.
Well, let's just say I'm getting the ages wrong, but a 12-year-old sister got her first cell phone, her first phone, and her 15-year-old brother looked at her and said, "You know what? You will never know how hard it was when you had 2 gigabytes of data. You got it so easy with unlimited data."
Oh my gosh!
Like,
I remember I actually have it in my backpack because I was going to bring it here for us to use as a prop. It's my very first cell phone. I just kept it. I'm kind of a minor hoarder.
Yeah.
Whatever, Christian. Anyway, so I still have that, and I was like, you had to every key. How do you say hey? You had to touch 4 and
buttons.
Then 2 and then 3 or whatever to actually spell everything out. That's the real struggle, kids. All right.
Yeah, you didn't have a full-on keyboard.
Not only that, but you also got messages from your parent or conversations with your parents because, hey, you sent 1,000 messages this last month. You have 250. Where are you going to get the rest of this money? Because there was not unlimited text messages. It was you paid for each text.
my first phone was a bag phone. Have you all seen the bag phones?
Yes.
Seen a couple on the Google.
It was
On the Google.
On the Google.
We can put it up.
It was a bag phone that no matter when I made the phone call, it was 30 cents a minute.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
30 cents a minute. Now, and here's the thing. I was in college in Nacogdoches. There was no coverage in Nacogdoches at the time. There was no need, and it cost me like $1,300 also.
Oh my gosh.
And there was no need for me to have a bag phone in college with no coverage, but I had
But
to
you were
have it.
cool. Like,
Yeah.
did you walk to class with your bag phone?
No, I can't say that I did that.
Dang. At least drive around and let people know you had it in your car.
That's right. I used the hell out of it in Dallas though.
Yeah. Well, Dallas,
awesome.
yeah, because Dallas has always been like a good telecom area for a long time. But yeah, I remember my parents they didn't have a bag phone, but it was very similar to that. Like the next version of it we got in our van, and I was like, "What is this thing?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can make calls from anywhere."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Wow," and that was like 95 or whatever.
Very exciting.
So obviously you can't spend $1,300. Well, you can't spend $1,300 on a very nice phone now. I think it's maybe $1,000 and you can get it.
Yeah.
So it's went a little bit cheaper. But if you only had $100, so what's a purchase of $100 or less that has positively impacted your life
Oh my gosh.
in the last 6 months, or in recent memory?
Yeah, recent memory.
Yeah. Oh, we
Dude,
can pause for dead air
that's a
here.
Great question.
Yeah, we're trying to. That's our goal. Is let's stump the podcast guy.
$100 or less. Well, business wise,
Yeah, it could be business or personal.
and you were the first one that I saw have this, the contraption where you can hold your.
Oh yeah, have it in my car.
iPhone, was good. Another $100. I used this one yesterday, and I found it on Facebook. So you guys will like this. The clip that will hold your phone to your dashboard so that you have heads-up display, basically.
Yeah.
And I used that driving down Nacogdoches yesterday. So that's it. And that was like $19.99. Got it on
Nice.
Facebook.
Yeah, okay. So make sure that you give us that link. We'll put that in the podcast show notes, too, because we may need to use that to probably a business expense, I would say.
That's a
Wait,
great
you're saying
question.
that's the one that's like a little screen thing that mirrors your phone?
No,
Or is it just...
it's such a simple contraption. All it is, it's like a visor clip,
Okay.
and like a clipboard with a spring. And you open up the clipboard, you put your phone in there, and then you can put the whole phone into your dashboard.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Huh. Yeah, okay. Definitely want to see that. Very cool.
Next question that's going to stump you. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
In
He
the
stumped
last
people.
5 years.
Yep.
Wow. Because my obvious answer, but I've been doing this for a lot more than 5 years.
Okay, that's fine.
Just be genuine, and be genuine in your desire to help other people. And that's something that, not to pat myself on the back, it's something that has come naturally for me, and it's something that I know doesn't come naturally for others. And that's not saying anything negative of others, because I just think that if you're not in that mindset, it's hard for you to understand how helping someone else can really make you feel good. Once you do it, it's real easy to understand. And I'll use the Special Olympics as an example. A lot of people, when I post pictures from Special Olympics basketball or what I'm doing with them, they want to pat me on the back and say, "That's so great that you're doing this." But it's actually the opposite. I mean, it's not to sound cliche, but it's very selfish of me, because I get so much out of helping them and doing things with them that it's something that I wouldn't give up at all. Right. And I don't deserve any credit for that at all. But being genuine with it, you can't fake it. You can't fake a desire to help other people. But you can force yourself to put yourself in that mindset so that you can experience it. And then once you experience the joy of helping others, it hopefully will come natural to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that you probably at first, people, there's a little bit of a hesitance to do it. As soon as they do, then I believe what you're saying. It's just a natural human emotion that you are going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's not the same feeling, but I feel like it's also you do a good deed for somebody, or you do the right thing with, whatever it is. It's okay, I could have chose to do this, or I could have chose to do that. And it's the right thing. And you're okay, I'm glad that, I took more time, or I spent more effort on this. And now because I did that, I feel better about it.
Yeah. And there's something else too in business, and you guys do this a lot. As a matter of fact, I think you guys are probably one of the better examples of this, is giving things away for free, helping others in business. And rather than when someone, I've seen you do this before, Aaron, when someone asks you a question, rather than you saying, "Well, let's set up an appointment and we'll talk about it," you'll give the answer, and I'll sit there and I'll think, that's something you probably could have charged for.
Yeah. But
in the long run, giving things away, giving knowledge away. I met with someone the other day he's 22 years old. He can't afford me, but I told him I'd be very happy to help show him exactly what he needs to do to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know you guys do, and I've seen you guys do it.
Is that Boston fan? I'm talking about, the guy who's a fan of the Steelers?
Yes.
Or Steelers fan?
That's exactly, yes.
All right. Well, shout out to that kid. We'll not give him names, but he needs to pick a better football team. So, all right. This is probably not going to stump you, but it is a good question. I don't think I've ever asked you this, but so what do you wish you would have known when you first started out? And it can't be the answer that you would have gotten involved in the community and done what you've done now.
From when I first started in business, or started out in life, or
whatever, however you perceive that.
Multiple things.
Okay.
Okay. In life, I wish I'd taken the advice of every older person and started saving money when I was a teenager, and even before that. I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd actually cared a little bit more about school, which is a weird thing, because I'm on the board of the Alumni Association at Stephen F. Austin. I was just down there. In my college career, just so you all know, and I think you guys probably cared and made good grades and were very conscientious students.
I was about a B student.
Yeah.
Okay. C. And I didn't, I said C, like that.
Oh, there you go.
I did not let school get in the way of my college career at all.
Oh,
Class was not a priority for me at all, and I wish that had been different. But I also think, maybe I wouldn't be who I am today if I wasn't so social. I was very social, even though I'm an introvert.
Right.
But in college, I was a little bit more outgoing.
You had liquid courage.
Yes, a lot of liquid courage.
Gotcha.
But I would have cared more about school, just because I can open up so many doors. Just the grade point average. In business, gosh, I'm still so young in business as far as my business is going right now. I wish that I had gotten off to a better start, because, like I was starting to tell you guys before, I always looked at podcasts as a minor leagues. And since when I was starting out, I was just going to do my own podcast.
Right.
And I already had my sponsors in hand and everything. I didn't know the power of them until I really started getting into some of the businesses that I started to help promote with podcasts. And even right now, I wish I was more aggressive in telling people.
I was going to say you're very modest in that. That's just a outsider's view.
Because the truth of the matter, it's still modest. I need to do a better job of letting people know, especially the smaller businesses that are doing a lot of advertising. And it's one thing for a big business to spend a lot of money advertising. They can afford it, and they can make some mistakes. They don't have to be quite as efficient. And they can
didn't show up on the radar as much.
Yeah, but I need to do a better job informing these smaller businesses. Look, I'm not telling you shouldn't spend money in print advertising, but if you're doing that, then you probably can spend your money a lot more efficiently.
Yeah.
And advertise on some of these podcasts, the chamber podcasts, that are so niche that you'll be hitting your target a lot more often than paying to reach a lot of people that aren't going to be your customers.
Yeah, I think you gave a really good analogy before, as like, even if you only had a couple hundred people listening to your podcast, if you could have your target market in a room with you and there is 100 or 200 people and they're just listening to you talk, like, that's a really good analogy or a really good visual for people to see. Like, look, you may reach 10,000 people in that newspaper, but that's total people reached. And unless you're on the front page, there's no way you're reaching 10,000. You may get 100. And of the 100, are they really even listening or looking at you and being your target market versus one of your podcasts? As they're listening to Alan in Action, they're not listening to it as just some, regular consumer. They're probably, wanting to find out about a community or a business owner. So it's a very targeted market. And I think you gave that to me a while back, and I think that's a really good visual for people.
I told the owner of the Wingstop, who I go to church with, but he owns a lot of Wingstops, and I told him, look, I can walk into your place of business and tell you, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to have 100,000 people listening to this podcast. I might not even tell you that there's going to be 1,000 people, but I can tell you everyone listening either lives in or is thinking about moving to within a 5-mile radius of your store.
Heck yeah.
So, it's just a whole lot more efficient.
All right.
Do we ask that last question? That last harder question?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think?
I'm nervous.
It's not really hard. What do you think is something you failed at, and how did you learn from it?
Something I failed at. Okay, even in my head, this sounds very corny and very cliche. It's hard for me to answer that question, and it may be because of my faith, or just life. Failures are not failures, as far as I'm concerned. When you fail at something, you're one step closer to achieving what you want to achieve. So it's hard for me to look at a failure.
And have like a negative connotation to it. Like,
I mean, it's almost like I look forward to failing, because I know that's.
So what's been the biggest opportunity or the biggest setback who's like been a springboard for you? So like not necessarily a failure. Maybe failure is a negative connotation, but what's the biggest learning experience? See, guys, we stumped him.
Yeah, you did.
We have a very easy one. We can come back to that question.
No, I'm going to give you. I'm looking for just the magic answer there.
Nice. All right, that's good.
Because everything is a learning.
Yeah.
Experience.
So we're just trying to think. You can't see.
Okay, you know what? Like I said, looking back, I failed a whole lot when I was in my 20s and 30s, just at life. Just because I wasn't. like I said, I had the opportunity to go to college, and I didn't take advantage of those classes.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, and that's why, as I answered that question earlier, I failed to get great grades in college, but I think I came out okay.
Right. I was going to say, would you change anything now?
That's why it's so hard for me to answer the question, because I don't think I would change too much.
Exactly. I think like what you led into in the beginning was like, it's a lot about your faith. So if you have a faith, you understand that, look, sometimes there's a fork in the road and then another fork and then another fork. And if we were going to predestine this road, then we would have gotten to a place that probably wouldn't be nearly as good as where you're at now.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Look at the way Aaron's able to put my words.
It's because I know Mark. I've met him at least once.
But that really is a hard question, though, if you look at life that way. And it's also, I've told people that there's no real problems in life if you have the faith and you have the experience to know that every hard spot in life that I've had, I've come out better.
Yeah, and actually, since I'm the Christian, so I'm a firm believer in that philosophy too. I'm also a firm believer, and I send it to Christian too, that there's no real problems that you can solve with money.
Yeah.
So you don't have a real problem like, okay, I need a new car. Well, that can be solved with money. You can fix that. That's not a real problem. Cancer is a real problem, and even that, you could probably have the best doctors and you could solve that with money. So anything that has to do like that, that's not really like a real problem. That's really bad to say necessarily on a podcast, because some people may think that like I'm coming across as like I'm super loaded, and they would know that I'm driving a 2000 Honda Civic. What's up?
Which is why you're super loaded.
Yeah. No, but no, that's the point, is that like, if it can be solved with money, then you can always make more money. So it's not like, that's not a real problem in the world. Overpopulation, AI, those are real problems
AI,
in the world.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, going back, and you don't have to edit this in, but you just touched on something, and that is the biggest mistake I've made.
Okay, let's go.
The biggest mistake I've made is not listening to people that I knew were telling the truth. Not listening to my grandfather when he told me about saving money. Not listening to the college professor who said, hey, you may not think it's important, but you probably should get an A in this class if you can. Not listening to people who had the experiences, not listening to people that live through experiences, that know what kind of issues you're going to have, that can predict the future because they lived the future, they lived through it, and not taking the advice of others is definitely the biggest mistake I've made. And that seriously is a mistake. You bring up the money part. I spent the first... Even though I told you my first salary was $15,000, but the first few years out of college, I spent trying to figure out how I'm going to make my first $1 million, rather than just letting it happen, rather than just deciding what I wanted to do. I was very money driven. When I had the convenience store, I was working 90 hours a week.
Yeah,
just chasing money. But I think not listening to the advice of experienced people is something that a lot of young people fall into.
Yeah, wisdom is... It's so funny because it's like wisdom is so underrated, but you can't talk like sense into people who don't understand wisdom, and then when they finally do get it, it's too late for that. Exactly. So it's like it's a unicorn. So obviously we're no exception to this. There's obviously I should have probably listened to my parents. Respect your elders. Like there's a reason that they say that, or you should listen to your grandparents. So that's a good point. All right, so let's jump to a much easier question, and I'm upset because I know that this isn't your answer right now, Mark, because I've told you this for probably about a month now. We're still friends, but anyway. So the question is, what is your current Netflix binge?
Wow. Okay, I know where you're going with this, but I just started watching a little miniseries about the Central Park Five.
Oh, cool!
I heard about that. That's really good.
And I
haven't seen it.
It's only 4 episodes, and I'm halfway
like
through
hour
the
episodes,
second.
or
It's a little bit longer than an hour, I think. I'm halfway through the second episode. It's fascinating to me how the whole crime drama stuff, and especially the dramas that are about real events, and all law enforcement, I'm just fascinated by, and the psychology of how they were able to get these kids to confess to something they didn't do.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see how it could happen, but watching the interrogations and the dramatizations of the interrogations is very fascinating. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We need to check that out.
Yeah, it's on my watch list.
All right. Second to last question. Actually, it is the last question, really. We don't want to take too much of Mark's time or put him too much on the spot. But
Too late.
Both of those.
I'm fine with time. I'm good.
So what does 2019 look like for Friedo Nation Productions?
Or 2020.
Or 2020.
Hopefully it's 2019.
Okay.
I'm about 6 months behind on this project. What I've wanted to do, and I'm going to do it, is start 3 live streaming online stations. I hate to say radio stations.
I think you talked to me about that before,
because
right?
it's not radio, but 3 audio streams. 1 for faith, 1 for business, and 1 for women.
They'll run 24 hours a day,
They'll run
right?
24 hours. And basically what's going on is I've got, and it's just going to be the podcast production I already do, just packaged differently. And so, for example, I've got 6 female-oriented podcasts that I produce. And basically the way my business model works right now is the people that I produce podcasts for are paying me to produce a podcast. What I'd like to do is be able to lower that price so I can get more people involved and make up for it with a sponsorship.
Yeah, advertising. So
my thought process is I'm going to package those 6 different female-oriented podcasts, make a podcast stream, Friedo Nation Female. I just made that's and actually woman to woman is and just put all that content on that feed and have a title sponsor that at the beginning of every podcast, hey, this is a woman to woman podcast brought to you by Geritol or whatever. And then that way I can lower my prices to get more content, because what I really want to do is be able to provide very good content for women to support each other, faith-based, so that you can be really niched and you can listen to stuff that is quality, but it's not going to be on radio stations or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the female-oriented one is probably the first one I'm going to launch, and that will probably be hopefully by August.
All right. You heard it here first, guys. August 2019.
And if you want to sponsor it, oh my gosh.
Yes. So that's a good segue. How can our audience find out more about Friedo Nation Productions or sponsorships or getting a podcast or anything like that? You
can call me, first of all, 214-250-1321. You can go to my website, which I don't want Bit Branding to go to right now.
Oh, I'm on it right now.
I've got some website guilt in me because it's not really the greatest website, but FriedoNation.com gives you the basic info, gives you the basic contact information. Or you can find me at any chamber event.
Yes, literally in the Metroplex, right?
Yeah. Collin County.
Yeah, Collin County. All right. Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for jumping in and coming up. His office is literally like down the hall and down the stairs.
I might be like right below you guys.
Yeah. But no, you're a little bit farther this way, but we're close.
Yeah,
we're very close. So thanks for coming in on a Saturday. Thanks for recording with us. It's always fun to talk with you, and now we have some recording with that. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you guys are just now tuning in, this is your first episode, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the podcast episodes. And if you've been listening for a while, please do us a favor and go to iTunes and leave us an honest rating and review. This helps us not only reach more people, but to continue to critique the podcast, which makes us create better content. All right, guys, we will see you next week.
The Marketing Natives Podcast is a production of Bit Branding.